Hey, what's up, Unbroken Nation? And so when I go back and I look at my history, I look at my life, being a little kid, the only thing I ever wanted, I think about this all the time. The only thing I ever wanted as a little kid was a father. I wanted someone to teach me. I wanted someone to show me the ropes, to help me understand not only what it meant to be a boy, but to be a man and to guide me and to help me through this process of creating and building a life. And I didn't have that, and so my mentors when I was young, they were library books. I've said it jokingly in passing, I used to spend all my time in the library because they had air conditioning, and in part that's true, but also it was because I could get all of this information. I could just go and read these books. I would read about athletes, I would read about celebrities, I'd read about people who were real life people, and I've said this before, I never really had any interest in fiction. Even to this day, I struggle through it, but I started learning at a very young age to educate myself. And I found so much power and so much benefit through books. And that slowly transformed and went into music. And I started listening, and I've mentioned this before, to people like Jay-Z and just feeling like there's lessons in these lyrics, there's lessons in these songs, there's something for me to take from this. And so I would sit down, I would just take a meaning and understanding, go, okay, can I process this? Can I learn from it? And in part, I've said this before, Jay-Z is my hero, right? And that's not in this that's not in a figurative sense. It's in a literal sense. And the reason why is because I go, that's a point of measurement for possibility. So here's what I think about very often. When I was in that window of 18 to 21 years old, when I was trying to figure out how to make $100,000 a year legally, because I didn't want to go to prison, I didn't want to get murdered. It was very important that I held to this. I started going deep into this idea that the only way that I'm going to create actual success in my life is I'm going to have to go and get a job that I'm underqualified for, that I can sell myself enough on to get hired for, that I can then go and learn skills from the person who hires me to help me become better. Now, at that time, the logic was very simple. Okay, what do I have to do? Maybe I can go get a job working in a management position somewhere. Because the only thing that made sense to me at that time was like, I need a job where I can see the roadmap towards money. And that job for me initially, so I worked a bunch of dead end jobs and I finally landed this position working for a fast food restaurant. And my general manager there, when I was in training, was amazing. And this guy taught me so much. And then they put me into a store. It was the number one busiest store in all of Indianapolis, where we were literally doing $10,000 a day in cheeseburger and fries. The amount of human foot traffic and consumption that came through this place was unbelievable. But I had my manager, the general manager of that store, as I was an assistant, was absolutely profound in the way that I think about my life today because she taught me lessons the hard way. And what I mean by that, it's not that she wasn't supportive, but the way that I had to learn was from really paying attention to the intricacies of the mistakes that I was making. And when she would follow up with me, she would she was literally coaching me. Now, go back to being 18 years old, that it didn't feel like coaching. It felt like ridicule because I was making mistakes. I didn't know how to deal with this thing around the idea of perfection and having people go, that was a mess up and things like that. I had a lot of armor on. And in retrospect, looking at and measuring that, I go, man, the lessons I learned there were so profound because she let me fail. And when I did fail, she would sit me down and guide me through it, start to finish, and help me understand why that happened. And that was so incredibly profound for me because it taught me how to think critically. Fast forward a couple more years, I'm like, all right, I'm going to dead end in fast food. I could see it coming. I was working 60 hours a week. I was exhausted. All of my money was gone because I was living by myself. I was living with roommates, but I was paying rent, had a car payment, the whole nine. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to make it at 30 grand a year or whatever I was making. So I was like, okay, what's next? Trying to think about elevation going to the next level. And I land this job with this Fortune 10 company and I start making all this money. And this was the point where I stopped having mentors. So from 21 to 25 and a half, let's call it 26, I was under no tutelage. I was under no mentorship. I was under no guidance. I was going about the world in this very nonchalant way, just thinking that I had it all figured out.